Hi viewer, we are back on the last segment of this lecture titled Sources of Educational Problems. We want to look at sources of educational problems. In our previous lecture, we looked at nature of educational problem, where we identified different forms of education problem can occur. In this particular lecture, we are going to look at their sources. Sources of problems of research include, but not limited to, the following: from literature, from theory, from experience, which could be personal or another or authority, reports of previous research projects, revelations, intuition, reasoning, and research. So we are talking about source of educational problem. So in source of educational problem, you are going to look for it from these various angles, these various areas we have mentioned. Therefore, we want to look at the first source we mentioned there, which is literature. Literature is number one source of educational problem for any academic, for any scientific researcher. This is a very useful source for identifying problems in education. It involves review of primary and secondary sources, such as journals, proceedings, periodicals, magazines, books, and others. It provides sufficient insight into the areas of problem in the field. Another source of educational problem, as we mentioned earlier, is theory. We all know what is theory. Theory is organized information. Is this information that can be applied in solving a problem, that can be used in describing issues, that can be used to analyze issues. So theory is a set of propositions that can account for and explain certain phenomena or events. It provides explanations about phenomena. There are theories of learning, educational leadership, organization, management, administration, behavior, counseling, and others. Theories give rise to deductions that must be tested. Deductions constitute research problems. We want to look at experience as a source of educational problem. Experience, we know what experience is. That wherever you are, you have stayed there for a long time, you are bound to acquire some wealth of knowledge that will help you to do better than someone that just enter into that. So experience can be personal or another's, or it can be from an authority or from an expert. Most students usually encounter problems requiring investigation in the course of their professional training, such as teaching practice, lectures, industrial training, practicum, seminars, and others like SIWO. So these are where people have to gather some experiences. When you are, as a student, you are carrying out trying to choose a topic, trying to define problems, and you are finding it difficult to know what to go about. You've gone to literature, you are not able to harness what you have in the literature. You can look for people who are older. They could be an older student, it could be somebody who is your senior, it could be your lecturers, it could be professors, it could be others who have acquired a lot of experiences there. They can help you from whatever you have already, help you to fashion out a research problem. Reports of previous research projects. Yes, it's also another good source of educational problems. Remember, when we were talking about research reports, which we are going to talk in future. When you are having your reports as a work completely done, you want to report and let people know what you have done. The two important main session headings there is where you have educational implications. There's a place also you have suggestion for further studies. So from this, and you also have in the literary review where you have empirical studies. So if you get somebody's work or report of previous research project, if you go to this empirical study person has done already his work, you can expose a lot of areas or problems which you can now jump into and use it and make it to dance with your own tone. Then again, if you go to suggestion for further studies by the researcher, you can see areas I've done. Look at the areas I wish that future researchers can work on. So this is part of the literature that serves and as a source of a problem identification in two different ways. Like I said, in terms of suggestion for further studies and the replication of previous work. You know what I mean by replication of previous work? You've gone to somebody's work, gone to titles done in a department, done in a faculty. Some people have done cover so many areas. You can pick the same title the person has done and watch. The person has done it in this particular zone, has done it in this particular environment. Well, let me know what happens from this finding the finder. Let me know what happened in other areas that person did not do it. That area could be a different geographical environment. It could be a different skill. It can be a different organization, and it could be a replication in terms of method or process involved in carrying out the research. Then we have what we call revelation. Revelation most often is spiritual. We'll talk about that God can reveal things to people. Yes, revelation is a disclosure of knowledge to man by divine and supernatural agency. Revelation and intuition are two ways of perceiving information. Intuition. Intuition refers to a sudden insight, instinct, and apprehension by sixth sense and mind for solving a given problem. Yes, we have senses that help us to go about learning, go about teaching. We have, say, when things are very difficult or you're intelligent, they say this person applying the sixth sense. A sense of hearing, we have sense of hearing, we have sense of sight, we have sense of feeling. So these are different senses. So in intuition, there's the problem people are looking at. You are part of people trying to get a solution to this. All of a sudden, something, information can jump into your mind and say, what about this or something that is an intuition. It is first generated in the form of clear and distinct ideas within a person's internal framework of reference, which is neither available to him nor to other persons for verification. And so intuition is not something that is verifiable. The above constitute a very serious limitation. Experience refers to a kind of knowledge or information resulting from actual or practical or everyday acquaintance with facts. We've talked about experience before. We know what experience is. A person that had a wealth of experience is a big advantage to somebody in solving or working in a place. This experience, if accumulated direct from a personal experience or becomes inadequate, one seeks knowledge first from one experienced person, expert or authority in the field. What I mean here, I mean that in the course of your doing your job, in the course of your doing your research, and you find out the much knowledge you have is no longer adequate for you to overcome that. That means it's what you require, what you need to solve is above your own personal experience. There's need for you now to seek for a higher authority, somebody who is more experienced than you, and this could be experts in a particular field. In universities, professionals of different fields can serve as this. In a village community, we can talk about authorities like traditional rulers or president generals of towns. They consider a good experience for this. Let us look at the merits and shortcomings of the above. Personal experience that is from experts may have arisen from hazardous observation and uncritical evaluation of evidence. What do I actually mean here? When you rely on somebody's experience, you are solving a problem and you're having challenges, you consulted somebody you feel that is a superior officer or someone that has gotten more experiences. There's no way you have measured what you call experience in that person. At times you may find a young person who has more vibrant information than a person who has stayed in a place for donkey years. So most often it's not that you've stayed this number of years in a particular organization that make you have more information than the other one. So it's one of the merits and shortcomings of relying on experience, whether your own personal experience or an experience of somebody around you. There is the tendency to ignore certain evidences that do not seem to support one's line of thought. So when you are based on somebody's experience, you have a line of thought. Somebody can divert you before you know what happens. Say, I know this is. Before you know, you are taken away, you deviate from the track. There could be lack of control for external variable, as we mentioned earlier, that can or may confound or distort conclusion. Authorities are therefore not infallible. You know what I'm talking about here? So nobody is infallible. Nobody is Mr. Know-it-all. So you do not say because this person comes before me, therefore whatever it says is a hook, line, and sinker. Want to look at reasoning. Reasoning process using superior argument to explain, interpret, or defend a supposed truth. Reasoning is a powerful source of information. And it is something very strong and required in carrying a good scientific research. Reasoning process is classified into three types: deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, and inductive deductive reasoning. So these are three ways one can reason. So you talk about deductive reasoning, talk about inductive reasoning, and you talk about inductive deductive reasoning. Let us look at deductive reasoning. It was first introduced by a man known as Aristotle and was based on syllogism. This is Aristotelian process of moving from generalization to their implications to particular cases in terms of checking their validity in relation to existing knowledge and vice versa. It originates from a process that gives rise to an idea which could employ in the shaping of a reality. Deductive reasoning consists of three parts: a major premise, which is based on prior self-evident proposition; a minor premise, this provides a particular instance; and a conclusion, that is new knowledge. So whenever you are trying to do a deductive reasoning, you have to consider these three phases or these three premises. Problem is solved through a formal sequence of formal steps of logic. Examples of deductive reasoning is what I have here. When you say all birds flies, remember you say you have a general premise. So all birds fly, you're talking about birds. Then eagle is a bird. The eagle flies. So look for the fact that all birds fly and eagle is a bird. The implication is that eagle does what? Can fly, or eagle flies. When you say mathematics is a difficult subject to students, you are reasoning now by deductive means. Mathematics is a difficult subject to students. That is what every student feels, or what the older students had told the new ones, and they believe that mathematics is a difficult subject to students. Therefore, algebra being part of mathematics, say algebra is a mathematics. Algebra is a difficult subject to students. Let us look at that deductive reasoning again. Mathematics is a difficult subject to students. Algebra is mathematics. So if algebra is mathematics, it implies that algebra is also difficult subject to students. Tertiary education is a bedrock of national development. Tertiary education as a whole is a bedrock of national development. University education is apex of tertiary education. The implication is university education is a bedrock for national development. Another good example is when you say leadership is imperative for development of universities. Vice chancellors provide leadership in university. Therefore, vice chancellors are imperative for development of universities. Let us look at inductive reasoning, which is different from what? Deductive reasoning. Francis Bacon was the founder of inductive model of reasoning. This is a process of using arguments made up of one or more observed evidences and a conclusion based on these evidences. When two or more cases of a given phenomenon have one condition in common, the condition then becomes the cause or effect of the phenomenon. Example of inductive reasoning is where you have two columns. On the first column you have, you have two columns. How many columns do you have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 columns, but you have 2 rows. On the first rows you have A, C, and X. On the second row you have A, B, C, and S. In between you have no C and no S. So what is the commonality in these 2 columns? You can see that what is common between these 2 is what? A, you have A here, you have C. So A and C. Okay. Examples of inductive reasoning is what we have here. In this row, we have A, C, and X. In the second row, you have A, B, C, and X. So we also have how many columns? You have 4 columns. The first column, the second column, and the third column, the fourth column. So when you look at these, the rows and the column together, you find out what is the general thing they have in common. what is the general thing that enable you to do the inductive reasoning? You find out that you have A in row A. A is common here. Here you don't have commonality here. Here you have CC. So, and here you have X. So the commonality you have here, you have A, you have C, you have S. So that is the means of reasoning that will help you to do or practice inductive reasoning. Inductive and the deductive reasoning occurs in this form. Inductive and deductive reasoning is simply a combination of the inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. So the other way where you use the three premises and the other way you use the two premises in reasoning. If you match the two together, it gives you what we call deductive reasoning. So it is Baconian approach of inductivity and the Aristotelian deductive approach matched together. The process of development of science of inquiry, asking questions, generating hypotheses, logical verification of hypotheses, interpretation of findings, and the integration into a theoretical framework. Let us look at research. And research is the most veritable scientific process of unveiling facts, hidden truth, and information. So any problem generated through research is a sound problem. Any solution generated through research is a sound solution. It is a process of solving problems through investigation using scientific method. So with this, we come to the end of this lecture. Thank you for listening. Thank you.